On Saturday, June the 1st, a lovely sunny day, we headed north to Aberfoyle for this year's Rebound Gravel Ride. I was a little nervous about this due to my fitness not being quite where it should be, but was hopeful that I could at least complete it. No pain, no gain and all that. Just after 10 AM, around 50 people lined up for a picture and to be waved off by Kerry McPhee, who wished us all good luck.
Quite a few body turns up today so far, just about ready to roll.
I'd registered online and intended doing the 47-mile route which Kerry had posted and which quite rudely included a lumpy 4,900 feet of climbing. We left Aberfoyle straight into the start of what is around a 3-mile climb up the Duke's Gravel Trail, which is 800 feet of climbing. Ultimately things weren't to work out to plan, and our first setback of the day was to discover that the wee bridge which crosses the river after about a mile or so was closed, so we had to place stepping stones to get across, but only a few people got some wet feet. This was to be the first of a couple of wee unplanned changes to our route. Having crested, I get the drone up to capture some of the scenery and to get some footage of the 20 or so gravellers who had set off together for the 47-miler. As I said earlier, we had a lovely sunny day for the event, which I hope will help to show the Gravelfoyle area off in all its glory. By the time I get the drone back and packed up, I had a fair bit of catching up to do, but unfortunately there were a couple of cars in front of me which I had to let go as they were kicking up huge clouds of dust. After dropping down the Three Lochs Road, our route turned right along the south shore of Loch Venica. I always enjoy this wee section which is really picturesque. As we pedalled along here, I was recognised by this guy on the left, which always makes me laugh.
How you doing? How you doing?
If you're enjoying this video, please consider subscribing to the channel and giving it a like. If you'd like to follow any of these routes, the GPX files can be found by following me on Strava or Commute at the addresses on screen.
You alright? How you doing?
Hi, good. How's it going?
All good. Well, apart from these uphill bits, I'm more enjoying them today. And I don't think I've seen the end of them, to be honest.
Where's the weather? Beautiful, right?
It is. I don't know if I've got enough sweat packed though. Oh, fantastic.
At the end of the wee wooded section, we turned left, then right and set off up a very steep climb which took us up above Loch Venica. We've never been up this climb before and I'm pretty sure I won't be back up it again anytime soon. At the start I hit around 19% with some very chunky stones on its surface. I narrowly avoided hitting the deck when I hit a large stone which threw my front wheel sideways. Thankfully I managed to unclip in time, but Terry wasn't so fortunate and a few seconds later he ended up falling just in front of me.
Oops, that's what happened to me too as well. I just managed to get unclipped quick enough. You alright?
It was nice to see Cammy back out again and to cycle with some new faces. Everyone seemed to be mostly enjoying themselves. After the initially steep section, the climb eased off before ramping up again. I can't remember having to push my bike up a climb for any prolonged period of time, but I certainly had to do so here. Thankfully for my pride I wasn't alone, and whilst quite a few guys made it up, there were also quite a few walking. I must now be about 90 days into my 100-day cough, and if it turns out to be 110, I'm really not going to be happy. It was nice to crest, and we had a good view of Loch Venacher off to the north.
Oh, I did. I ended up walking. I'm riding the big roads on the good one. It's not happening. Because I looked down, he was in second gear, wasn't he really going? Oh, no way. Taking the path.
We usually climb this section, and this was the first time I descended it. Terry had a small mechanical in the descent, which may have been a consequence of his earlier tumble. We waited for him at the bottom, but by the time he arrived everyone else had buggered off. We set off again but took the wrong route at this point, heading north towards Loch Lubnaig rather than heading for a loop of Callander. We skirted the Falls of Lenny, and as Terry checked the route I phoned Big George, who advised me that his group was stopped at Callander and they were having quite a few tyre pressure issues. We agreed to crack on individually and hopefully meet up later on. As we approached Loch Lubnaig, we turned west and started up another fairly steep climb towards Ben Ledy. Again, this route was new to me, and after about half a mile in, we came across a section of fallen trees covering the trail. As we tried to find out if we could clamber over them, a walker appeared who told us that they stretched for about 200 metres. I phoned Big George again to tell their group to avoid this section, and we retraced our steps back down the Falls of Lenny. Before the main road we turned right into the trails along Glenfinglas. We've done this section quite a few times. The terrain is mostly rolling with some nice flowy sections and some short, steep, challenging climbs. This section has some excellent gravel which twists and turns and rolls, mostly climbing above the north side of Loch Venacher for around 4 miles as it winds its way towards Brigaturk. Whilst an enjoyable trail, it wasn't without incident, with firstly Kevin dropping his chain and then Mark having a wee tumble. Thankfully he was okay, although his pride was hurt as him and Kevin were passing a couple of walkers at the time. It begs the question, why are you always more likely to fall when there are people watching?
Kevin's chains came off. It's just there, so he says he'll fix it.
It's also a fairly drone friendly area, and I tried to capture some footage of the lads pedalling through it. This is Mark and then Terry with Loch Venacher in the background. This section is mostly a steady climb for a few miles before it drops into a dip, followed by a sharp climb up towards the farm. Towards the end of Loch Venacher, there's also a very sharp climb, which really gets the heart rate up. There are also some beautiful views over the Glenfinglas Reservoir, especially the further south you go. We then enjoyed the descent towards Brigaturk, where we stopped for lunch. Quite incredibly, we arrived at the tea room within a minute of the rest of the group, and despite having taken distinctly different routes, our mileages and climbing figures were very similar. The cafe staff coped with this influx of hungry cyclists fairly well, and we were back on the gravel, suitably fed and watered with a minimum of fuss. The cafe seemed to be vegetarian based, but I really enjoyed their mozzarella and caramelised onion panini. Because of the time, we had unanimously decided to head straight back to Aberfoyle via the Three Locks Road and the Duke's Pass. This route took us through Acre Farm. They apparently sell some very good ice cream, which was being guarded here by a less than intimidating small herd of goats. Having just finished lunch, no one stopped to try it, but I intend to rectify that the next time we're in the area, as Kerry had also recommended it. We're around 4.5 miles to the top of the Duke's Pass from here, along past the beautiful Loch Trunkie, and the majority of that was uphill. I climbed a fair bit of this with Big Alan, who I think deserves a special mention here. The big chap had contacted me during the week about the ride, saying that he hadn't done much cycling, and I assured him that he'd be okay for it. I had no idea that he'd only done 30 miles this year, so chapeau big man, that was some effort. I think this was the last time he was on a bike. The beauty of retracing our steps meant that when we crested the climb we would have a 3-mile descent back into Aberfoyle. This time when we hit the river crossing from the north, we had the option of following some diversion signs rather than risking getting wet feet. We followed them and it dropped us back into the car park from the east side. On reflection, it was probably a good thing that we had some enforced alterations to the route, as we ended up doing 10 miles fewer than intended, but it still felt like a very big day.
Son Jeremy boy, well done son. Big chap, well done you. Marky boy.
Yes, well done.
Well done. Tammy boy, well done son.
Cheers. Good morning.
Big chap, nice to meet you.
Good morning. Pleasure. Mo guy.
Good, oh, guy.
Charlie's law.
Well done. Well
After
done.
the post-ride pleasantries, we got changed and rounded off the day with a nice refreshing pint in the Aberfoyle Inn. In the ride by the numbers, we covered a lumpy and eventful 37 miles with 4,200 feet of climbing.